Hey, what's up? I'm Joel Madden, and this is Artist Friendly. On today's episode, I'm talking with lead vocalist, guitarist, and songwriter of the band Chevelle, Pete Loeffler. Let's go.
That's my kind. I don't want no bad times. I don't want to have bad.
And I really love being around like artists when they're making records and stuff. Any given week, there's a band or there's someone here making a record or starting a record or finishing a record, and I love being around that.
Yeah.
And you get to they'll ask you to come listen. I love that stuff, man. Just keeps me feeling like I'm close to the music.
Yeah. So there's studios in here.
There's 3 studios.
Oh, you track drums in here and stuff like that?
We can track drums in C.
Yeah.
It's not a huge drum room though, but these days it feels like no one really needs a big drum room.
Yeah.
It's like because all the recording stuff
Yeah.
is so in the box, but
True.
you can set drums up and record them.
Yeah, we're tracking our whole new record in my house.
Oh, great.
In my basement.
Do you have like a home studio set up?
Yeah.
Great.
Typically we'd come out to LA and record in Joe Barisi's studio, which is like legit, but man, we just
You don't need it anymore.
we just built one room,
Yeah.
decked it out a little bit. You get the right mics, preamps,
Yeah.
Pro Tools rig going. And then we found that if we leave the door open, we put room mics out into the middle of the basement, you can sort of mix it in, and it's...
Are you pretty
manipulated.
literate with recording?
What's that?
Are you competent recording?
I am not. I am learning Pro Tools as we
Okay,
go.
cool.
Yeah. It's a new endeavor, and with, I've realized how bad my eyesight is now. I'm constantly throwing on glasses and
Yeah, I have to
trying
wear
get
reading
in
glasses.
there and blow it up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Audiobooks are our friends now.
Audiobooks, yeah.
We listen and the eyesight thing is it's a bitch.
Yeah, I'm not literate recording, so I can't record, which is, I always feel like a bit like a fraud because I can't record. And I have so many friends who are I'm as experienced in age of how long we've been doing this, but man, I'm just learning how to record I've never been able to do it. I've tried. It's just.
Yeah, I had no choice. So a few years back, I had to give up on we were so old school.
Yeah.
It was just like a 24-track digital recorder that, I knew how to place the mics and all that because I did all our demos.
That's cool.
But then we went to, they started, it was obsolete. I had to switch over. So
switch to
so
Logic
finally,
or Pro Tools.
Yeah, so I'm learning as I go, and it's cool once you get into it, but the learning curve is
a learning
there.
curve.
It's I wouldn't take on the project alone.
Yeah,
but we have a good friend engineer that we're trying to do our whole new record in house all on our own. So
that's great. I love that.
I mean, there's investment, there's time, there's stress, all of those things, and then there's your kids rollerblading upstairs or scootering, and you're texting, and you're like, hey, can he take a break for a minute? Go on the Xbox, turn it down.
Yeah,
it sucks to have to do that, but
it's cool. I think
actually,
it's way cooler than the way we were trained to do it, in my opinion. I think we were trained to make records in the system of hire the producer, spend a whole lot of money on not to say that producers weren't worth what they got paid, but the studio and all the costs that were wrapped into recording, you'd spend $500,000 making a record. And now when you look at that as say you're just an entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. And you're just starting up a business and you have a $500,000 startup fund, which is businesses get started on that kind of money.
It was a shit ton of money when we started, wasn't it?
Yeah. And no one was saying hey, entrepreneurially speaking, are you looking at all the line items of this and going is this the best use of this money? You were kind of just going with the idea of this is what rock bands do when you get signed to a big label and you just spend a lot of money.
We definitely got pulled into that.
We did too.
I mean, you should tell me your story and then I'll tell you mine briefly because it's
dude, we spent so much money
on your first record, second record,
every record. Until we got what I would say is we matured by 30. I think it took my whole 20s for me to actually grow up.
Yeah.
And I think I was infantilized a lot by
the system that they put in place. You were saying,
the system, the ideas. I think you come from nothing. And you're kind of you come into this and you're what do I know? Right? My instincts what we don't give ourselves credit for, I think, is like our instincts get us there, our choices get us there.
Yeah.
But then we get into a place where there's a bunch of professionals, and they're like, "This is what you do."
They act as if,
and you kind of like give them the power to make every decision versus like exploring and staying in your gut and going like yes to that, no to that. There's probably like a balance, right? Like some of it was probably right.
Yeah.
Some of it was probably like excessive.
Absolutely.
And I think it's thoughtful, mindful decision making that you measure things and you decide and you learn, right? So if we made the first record and we had spent the time to go like, hey, this is kind of like a free college course while we make this record. Yeah. We could pick up some things, and the next record, maybe we do some more ourselves. I think it took me my whole 20s to grow up and get there where I was like, you know what? I kind of want to stop and reimagine how I behave and move. And I think it's that I learned where like that really changed my life, where I felt like I was really in my life, making decisions and feeling them. Versus just like on this ride where you're like kind of like eyes glazed over, just going along with it. It's crazy.
In the beginning, it's just, it's everybody's throwing everything at you. And you're like, and you're burned out, but you're a kid, so you can deal with it. Yeah. Until you sort of grow up a little bit. I mean, it's like nobody wants to grow up. We're in rock bands. You know, we don't want to grow up. That's why we do this.
Definitely part of us doesn't.
Our first record was in 99, and we did it with Steve Albini. Didn't know what the hell we were doing. We just, we went in there. It was basically like, first take, made it on the album. And we were like, well, this is what he says, live and learn there. And then it wasn't a bad experience, but it wasn't a great one. You know what I mean?
Right. That's fair.
So learned a little bit, liked him a lot. I don't know,
it seems cool.
We just thought it was going to be like this magical process, right? On the first one. It wasn't. Anyway, live and learn. Can't listen to that record. Don't even promote it, whatever.
Funny.
Go and sign with Epic Records.
Yeah, we were signing them too.
Yeah, wild, right?
Oh. At the same time, I think.
And that was around 2001, I want to say.
Yeah.
But then it's like you just got a $500,000 advance to make an album. You're like, I did? I made it, right? Who do you want to make it with? And you're like, okay, well, I like this band, I like this sound, whatever. Start digging around, you meet some people. Turns out we flew to Canada the day before 9/11. So we flew to Canada and the planes hit the towers. So our brother, youngest brother, flew in, I think it was that morning or the morning before. That experience was even worse, honestly. So that was the record that sort of like put us on the map, and we toured for a year without it, just playing like these songs at Ozfest. And then people are like, you don't have a record out. Why are you, on tour? And we're like, I don't know. This is how they want you to do it. And you're like, okay, so Canada is beautiful and great. It should have been an amazing thing. But the producer we chose literally was like talking behind our backs to the label, making problems, separating the band members, which were all brothers at that point, and making
Who was the
riffs.
Producer?
Garth Richardson.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know him.
So he did Rage Against the Machine's first album.
Okay.
And we're like, well, this can't
Must
be a bad
incredible.
move.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't want to like take it negative, but I'm just telling you like.
No, the truth is the truth.
I'm trying to elaborate a little bit on like how crazy things are when you first start and you start working with new people. And so what ended up happening is like he would get coked up, throw parties, break shit.
Really?
And we're all just, we're just sitting there like, what's up? And then like he would belittle us. He would say, your country's going to war. Now you got to stay here. You can't ever go home. Bullshit like that. Right?
Yeah.
So
you could certainly drive if you wanted to.
So he would use this intimidation factor. And
you're young and you're still inexperienced and you still don't want to upset anyone because you don't want to fuck your opportunity up.
Yeah.
And then you have this guy doing coke.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't think there's a difference in shit talking and sharing your experience. I just don't believe that anyone shouldn't be able to share their experience, even if it's of me, right? Yeah. If someone had a bad experience with me, I'm open to hear it and go, well, at that time I was going through this. There's some context. By the way, he may have great context to what he was going through at the time. Maybe he's a different guy now.
Yeah, maybe.
But like at the time, I've certainly had those experiences too, where you come in, and I was never like a drug user or wild party person. Right. I mean, I'd go to a party and hang maybe, but like I was definitely not the center of the wild party.
Yeah. Yeah, same.
And there were certainly people that would come around and thought this is what that is, and they're trying to bring that to your world because they think like that's what this must be, and you're kind of like, whoa, that's not what this is.
Yeah.
We like to have fun, but like there's speeds and there's limits to that stuff. And I was always a little uncomfortable with like the crazy side of it because I came from a world of real people who struggled with addiction and things like that. So I was always around that my whole life.
Oh, okay.
And so that triggers me big time when I'm around people that are struggling with in their early stages of addiction where they're not even realizing when you can see it, but they can't see it yet.
Right.
I struggle with that. I get triggered.
It's hard to be around it. Yeah.
It's hard for me. I was just talking about this. I think it's like seeing a potential because I was always worried about that.
Yeah.
And I think it's like when I see that potential, it triggers me because I see a little bit of myself in them in the sense of like what I came from.
Yeah.
And it triggers me big time.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't do well with like coked out producers and people that came around the party.
Yeah, it turns out we didn't either. He like split the band up. Some people went home.
That sucks.
Spent all the money, $500,000.
Oh, easy.
I didn't get anything out of it. I didn't even get a guitar that I remember.
Yeah.
And it was like, we were there for like 2.5 months. And then one day, Sam and I were looking at each other. And we're like, they're talking like, they're not sure what to do. What do you want to do on the record next? And I was like, I think it's good. You want to just bail? So we ended up bailing out of the studio. It wasn't even really done. And we were just like, we're done. We're just wised up.
And which record was that?
It was Wonder What's Next.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so how did you finish it?
It was basically done. It was basically done. So it was like, I think if I go back to that and think about it, it's probably like you take your experience now and you know what to do. But at the time I was like, it sounds good to me. It sounds heavy. Let's just mix it and see where it sits. Yeah. That's what we did. And then, we just went on tour and it was good. We did Ozfest opening, play at 9:30 in the morning, side stage. Yeah. Met all these great people, great bands, friends. Everybody's doing the same thing, Ozfest was crazy. It was like, it was almost like if you could get on it, you were like, it was a different time.
You were in a club.
You were gonna do something. You're gonna move the needle.
Yeah.
It's what it felt like back then.
Yeah, it was a real thing.
Yeah.
It was like a rite of passage to be able to get to do that.
Yeah. So, but then the next year they invited us back to open the main stage. That was wild because it was like us, Korn, I want to say Manson, Disturbed, and then Ozzy. And we were just like happy to be in the mix at that point because you're like, something's actually clicking. You know what I mean? So different times, it was a while back.
I mean, it was a long time ago.
I'm
over 20 years ago.
I know, because that was 2003.
That's like some OG shit.
Yeah.
Ozfest is the OG Ozfest. That's OG like metal shit.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. They should bring it back, honestly. I mean, I know Ozzy's struggling with health stuff and that sucks, but that sort of brand does.
It's a great brand.
Hold a lot.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. What album number is this one that you're working on?
This one is technically 10.
Okay.
But I call it 11 because I've had to write 11, this would be 11 albums worth of material. When you factor in the B-sides and stuff like that, each album needed 3, or 2, whatever you could do. But man, so I've written every single song for this band from the start, from the get-go. You go on tour, you come home, they'd be like, it's time to get in the studio. And it took me many years. This goes back to what you were saying about like people pushing you and, you're kind of brainwashed in a way because you're like, how do you have that sort of like impact when you're only in a tour bus riding around and you're not really experiencing life the way you used to, where you wrote those records before? It's like
where you're living.
You have like all your your life to write that first record,
Yeah.
Or the second record, whatever it was for us. But you go on the road and you come back, what am I going to say now? Like it's a weird thing, man. writing now is difficult.
Yeah.
I found. Yeah.
Why do you think?
I think it's a
hard to find a new.
I'm 47, so it's like it was like I had 20 years of like putting out a record every 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And then I hit a wall, and the last one took 5 years.
What was that?
That was Neurodius.
Okay.
And you're sitting there and you're like,
what year was that?
So
Did it
21.
Came out in
2021.
So from 2016 to 21, it took you that long to figure out that record.
And of course, 2020 happened, so maybe we could have chiseled a year off of that time.
Yeah.
Because of
COVID happened.
Yeah.